So, firstly, congratulations on the film. It's a magnificent piece of cinema and it's filled with heart, compassion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I tried to avoid any trailers, any promotional material, because I love going in blind when watching films. And honestly, it blew me away, and I think it's going to shock a lot of audiences. So, firstly, I wanted to touch on Sing Sing. It's a very interesting title. It relates to the correctional facility that the film takes place in, but it's got this deeper layer of meaning where the theatre program within the film, it allows the characters to express themselves through the art, and I feel like it's a very important message through that, and it shows how they can express themselves despite the harsh realities that they're living in. And it resonated a lot with me because I make films myself, and it sort of acts as like a catharsis. So I'd like to ask, how has making Sing Sing and previous films yourself allowed you to express yourself creatively?
Um, well, that's a great question. As I came into being an artist, um,
Mm-mm.
I, I wrote down a purpose statement a long, long time
Mm-mm.
ago. It was like 2008, and it was an instinct then. It's more committed practice now, which was that I
Mm-mm.
wanted to tell stories of human connection in impossible places, and I'm really like drawn to worlds where you can pull the curtain behind it and really travel in and visit and listen first to the place, and then most importantly the people that are there and what's their relationship with their setting. Are they in harmony or
Yeah.
conflict with it? And then with time finding a story, but really doing it as a community. And that's like what makes me feel most alive as an artist. Is I love to be around other artists and be a witness to the magic of what they create. I think that's my ultimate joy as a filmmaker,
Mm-mm.
is being in this close proximity and harnessing a collective around a vision, and
Yeah.
a vision that we co-create together, not that's placed upon that community by the director, but that's really born through collaboration, and that expands far beyond whatever we thought could be possible. That's what makes me feel most alive as an artist.
Honestly, I relate the same. Even when making my smaller short films, it's just about being around those sort of people and just being in that creative space. On this film, you worked with the incredible Coleman Domingo, a recent Oscar nominee, but you also worked with first-time actors such as Clarence Macklin, and he does an incredible job. So he plays himself, a former prisoner within Sing Sing, and I wanted to ask, how was the process of trying to integrate these first-time actors in a film like this? Did their personal experience contribute towards their performance?
I mean, it it was seamless sort of integrating our first actors into this movie because they're
Mm-mm.
just astonishing talents. They have, a tremendous amount of training through the program that they came out of. And what's unique about their involvement in the project is that their training is the exact setting that the movie is existing within,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
they're also able to bring not just direct experiences that they can bring into the process that they have really lived, of what things feel like, smell like, look like, and yet through their training and through this program they also are bringing in an unparalleled level of vulnerability and openness that
Mm-mm.
most people or artists have not really kind of evolved into yet.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's it was an extraordinary gift that also became like this wonderful exchange between actors on our movie like Coleman Domingo and Paul Raci and Sean San Jose, that they were able to all meet each other halfway,
Yeah.
take steps towards each other, and teach each other, and also learn from each other, and that's what allowed us to kind of rise to the heights that we did with this ensemble.
Yeah, it's like, even though that they were non-actors at the time, it fits within the story itself how Clarence comes in, he's the newbie within the group, and then he ends up taking on Hamlet and becomes the star. And that's how I feel that Clarence himself, he's actually, honestly, it's a phenomenal performance, and he will get a lot of praise when this comes out. So I feel that his first performance, he's delivered completely, and it's reflected both with his character in the film, but also in real life.
Yeah, well, what's also very hard about what he did is he was an extraordinary actor when he began this project.
Yeah.
He became better across the movie, which just shows what kind of, you know, a curious mind he has and openness to learn wherever he is. But it's very hard as a performer, I think, to become more of a beginner, like to pretend to be a beginner, you know. So he had to
Yeah.
he had to struggle in a way that he was actually quite mighty, and then you get to see the full sort of demonstration of his gift later on in the movie. And you know, like, I think no one does Hamlet like Clarence does Hamlet.
Yeah, he does a perfect job. And we see in the film Coleman Domingo's character, Divine G, he's breaking down bit by bit throughout the whole of the movie, and he's trying to contain it. But eventually he loses it on stage, and he does open up to the group. That was the scene where I was like, that's the jackpot. That's the scene of the movie where it's sort of the turning point. And I'd like to ask, what would you say is the message you wanted to get across to the audience from the moment Coleman Domingo's Divine G opens up?
Well, I think there are probably a lot of people out there like Divine G. Honestly, I see a lot of myself in that, who are so readily available to help other people but don't know how to ask for it themselves. And so we hold our pain very tightly until there's nowhere else it can go but to explode out, you know. And that explosion on stage, why it hits so hard, is it's like a scream for need of that connection and need of support from someone else, you know. And there's a despair there that I think a lot of us probably see in him and also in ourselves, you know.
It's sort of like almost a catharsis, both from the performance but also the feelings that he was sort of holding on to throughout the whole of the film. I also wanted to ask, so the main recurring theme throughout the whole film, Brent says it perfectly in the character Brent. He says, trust the process. That's the main thing that I've taken. And it's powerfully portrayed where Divine G eventually gets what he's been striving for. It's the goal that I was rooting for Divine G to get that at the end. Have there ever been moments on set for you where you faced struggles but you trusted the process to get the film made?
The trust the process was always present, you know, throughout the whole journey. But honestly, once we were on set, I just had to kind of hold my hands open and just let it happen, because everyone had arrived and was bringing everything to the table, you know. I really leaned on that and really needed it actually earlier on in the many years of developing the film and trying to get it made, and the ups and downs of that. And you know, I all over all those years, like, this was the one project where it was like, we have to follow through. This has to get made. We can't let this one go. You know, if I could only make one more movie, it was going to be this one, you know. And I think that's the thing I just had to hold on to most, and to invite the help of the people around me to actually get it made in the end.
I think you could see that throughout the whole of the film, where it's a huge team effort, not only from the cast but different elements. Like, for example, as the film started, I noticed how beautiful the cinematography was, and very few would expect that from a prison drama. And honestly, it surprised me a lot. Like, I've seen Pat Scola's previous film, such as A Quiet Place Day One. It was a beautifully shot film, but this is the peak, like the peak of his filmography. And like, I was thinking, what would you say through the use of cinematography with Pat? How did you want to convey the story in the way you did?
Pat is first and foremost an amazing storyteller.
Yeah.
And I recognized that very early on. He was essentially helping, as we were in prep, we were doing a shot list, but really he was helping further revise the script, but just without a pen. It was through his visual ideas that he was showing what was possible, with some of these moments and how to push them further. And he, really has a high bar for what feels honest, and he's never going to choose an image for its aesthetic reasons if it conflicts with something's deeper story need, and I think that takes a lot of vulnerability as a cinematographer, because the people who get most of the praise are the most kind of stylized, but the work he's doing is so subtly masterful across this whole movie. And he also can, more than anyone I've ever worked with, like, find these surprising moments and images just by being present as an artist that convey more than anything that we could write in dialogue. There's a moment where Coleman sticks his hand out the window that was just kind of found on the day, and it's one of, I think, the more iconic images in the whole movie.
Definitely. And to quickly wrap up, how would you describe Sing Sing in 3 words without saying sing, sing, sing?
I'll use something that Coleman described his performance: honest, elegant, and tender.
Oh, it's amazing. Anyways, thank you for talking with me, Greg. I've learned so much, and honestly, this film is going to change a lot of people's lives. It's a masterclass in filmmaking, and I think all of you guys are going to win the awards this year. I'll be honest, it's a very moving film. From a lot of my peers, we've all spoken about it recently, and we all loved it. So I wish you all the success, and yeah, Sing Sing's going to be really big next year and this year.
Thank you so much. This was an awesome conversation.
No worries. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure. See you.
Pleasure. See you later.
Hold that feeling.